This panting man is the male lead Nanyan Shur. It is the male lead's motto after Nirvana to kill God when he meets God and to kill Buddha when he meets Buddha. But after last season's invincible existence, this time the male lead has really met a difficult opponent. The hero focuses all his attention and turns his gun on the false god in front of him. Will he succeed this time? It all started after the last big battle. After rescuing his classmates, the hero continues on with his harem. They drive through the Sahara Desert. Myuu is still convinced that the hero is her father, and the harem doesn't mind. But the newest member of the harem, Kaori, can't stand it anymore, and she calls her dad like Myuu does. As she did so, she fantasized about the life she and the hero would have raising a child. Watching her like this, you couldn't help but return the favor. It was obvious that Kaori wasn't the least bit weak either. She stated that she knew a lot of secrets that the male lead didn't know, and said that she was talking about things before she crossed over. The two argued more and more, neither one willing to admit defeat. Even the male lead got a headache from their arguments, but he couldn't do anything about the two. The two of them are not willing to admit their faults, and they are not willing to admit their faults. When he sees that the two of them are finally willing to admit their faults, the hero is relieved. But the next moment Tio climbed on top of him and warned him to be careful. A sandworm appeared in front of him at some point. It had opened its bloody mouth and apparently had already regarded the hero and them as its own food. The hero hurriedly increased his speed to get rid of the sandworm's attack. However, the sandworm is still chasing after him. While showing off his skills, the hero takes out his weapon and shoots at the sandworms. Just after the battle, they found a strange teenager in the sand in front of them. He was struggling in pain. Kaori acts as a healer. She carefully examined the teenager's injuries and provided him with treatment. It turns out that the teenager's magic is out of control in his body, and there is too much buildup to get it out of his body. If left untreated, his blood vessels could burst, and his life would be in danger. After many attempts, Kaori used the healing magic back to the holy. Finally, she managed to temporarily undo the runaway magic in the teenager's body. When the teenager woke up, he actually thought Kaori was a goddess, and tried to reach out and touch her. However, the hero simply kicked him with his foot, making him recognize the reality that he was still alive. The teenager's name is Biz. And he is the prince of the Principality of Enkaji, the destination they are about to arrive at the hero. Because the oasis of the duchy's water source was contaminated, many people had fallen sick and collapsed. So Biz plans to go to the great volcano of Guluin to collect ores that can purify the water quality of the oasis. He hopes to use the ore to solve the crisis of the duchy. However, halfway there he falls sick and collapses. However, he falls ill and collapses halfway through the journey, and it's not until he meets the hero and the others that Biz sees hope. He formally presented a commission to the lord of the house asking for their help. The lord of the house was in a bit of a dilemma, because the life and death of the Enkaji duchy didn't seem to have much to do with him. However, under Mayu's determined eyes, the male lead finally agreed reluctantly. Their decision was supported by the harem. So the group prepared to depart. But they didn't know the fact that the male lead had previously resolved the demonic army and killed the demoness Catalia. It had already been made known to freed of the demon people. Flid plans to travel to the depths of the great volcano of ancient Lune in an attempt to obtain new divine generation magic. He has decided to take revenge on those who have repeatedly ruined the plans of the demon people. He would make the line pay a heavy price for this. On the other hand, the male lead and his party received a commission from Biz and arrived at the Enkaji duchy. Beneath the surface of the city's seeming prosperity are people who have been tortured and collapsed by the disease. The kind-hearted Kaori and Shia offered to stay behind to treat and take care of these patients. The male lord, who generally understands the situation, takes you and they follow the lord to a sandy area. Moon stretched out her hands and cast a large water magic. The next second a huge stream of water poured down. This temporarily solved the problem of the polluted water in the oasis of the Enkaji Principality. They then came to the oasis to investigate the root cause of the water pollution. The hero's magic, I seemed to sense that there was some unknown danger under the water. Out of caution, the hero directly is constantly summoned grenades thrown into the river to blow up fish. What he didn't expect was that he not only blew the fish out of the river. At the same time, he also drew out the unknown danger. The devil tentacles attacked them but were easily eliminated by the tacit cooperation of all of them. Then the demon in the water also revealed its true colors. It was actually a venom slime. It seems that this is the culprit that caused the water pollution in the oasis. With the target, it's a good thing. The hero shot the slime directly at its core, destroying it. While the water quality is not completely purified now, it will be restored in the near future. The lord of the Enkaji duchy also brought his citizens and expressed his sincere gratitude to them. Next, their mission was to head to the Guluin volcano to collect ore and end this matter once and for all. The male lead's group was also split into two pairs. The kind Kaori and the lovely Myuu were responsible for staying behind to take care of the patients. After that, the heroes will take Yushe and Theo to the volcano to collect ore. The two of them are not sure what to do with each other, but they have to be careful. The man was a little embarrassed. As a result, the male lead was instantly flustered at the sight of Yu's unspeakable expression. At that moment, the lovely Myuu started to relieve the hero. The scorching waves of air and hot temperatures around the volcano were too much for the crowd to bear. Shay was turning into a roasted rabbit. Only Theo was not affected at all because he was a black dragon. They arrived at the entrance of the volcano, and from here they entered the interior of the volcano. Soon enough they found a trace amount of purification ore on the rock wall. But this amount of ore wasn't enough. It seemed that they would have to search the deeper veins of the volcano. So they made their way down the steps that were surrounded by flames. They were about to look ahead when they were suddenly attacked. Luckily, you made a timely move and easily defused the flame attack. What appeared in front of them was a monster wrapped in flames. It was a flaming demonic bull with electric arcs wrapped around its body. And the hero just calmly raised his gun and aimed it at the flame demon bull. With the help of Shay, the hero quickly took care of the flame demon bull. Then they came to the interior of the volcano. They found a large amount of purification ore on the rock wall. This time they were able to completely fulfill the Angelica Principality's commission to save the suffering people. The next step was to get ready to raid the Great Labyrinth in the Great Fire Mountain of Guluin. They traveled in a mechanical boat traveling in the hot river along the river. The next step was a continuous vertical descent down the river. They arrived at the large maze standing in the center of the river not far away. While they were discussing how to get through the maze, they were suddenly attacked by countless small fireballs. The fireballs destroyed their boat. It was good that they reacted quickly and found a safe place to land. The next thing that appeared in front of them was an endless number of flame demon snakes. It seems that these are the guardians of the great labyrinth of the ancient Lune volcano. The fire snakes stared intently at the intruders in front of them. Soon they spat out fireballs again and attacked them. But the hero and his party reacted very quickly, and they quickly dodged out of the way. The hero drew his gun and started strafing. He instantly crushed the fire snake's body. At the same time, the hero also completely shattered the energy core of the fire snake, preventing it from being able to shoot again. Shay and the girls then realized. They followed the hero's example and launched a fierce counterattack. But after they managed to eliminate all the fire snakes in front of them. But when they managed to eliminate all the fire snakes in front of them, what was waiting for them was the rebirth of 10 fire snakes. The first thing that happened was that they were wrong about the way they were going to fight back. Now even the hero is a bit puzzled. But the resourceful Xia used her brain and immediately discovered the secret of the big labyrinth in the distance. It turns out that every time they destroy a magic snake and shatter its core, the rubies on the outer wall of the labyrinth will also be broken. Then the condition to pass the great labyrinth is to defeat 100 flaming magic snakes. With a goal in mind, it's a good thing. Theo even excitedly proposed that she would kill the most flame demon snakes to get the male lead's reward. Watching her skillful movements, Shay was getting anxious. She competed in the air foul hammer for machine gun. Moon, of course, refused to lag behind. She was straight up rambunctious thunder dragons falling. Soon the flame devil snakes were destroyed by them to the point where only 5 were left. But right after they combined their efforts to finish off the last 5 demon snakes, a strange sound came from them. Immediately after, a wave of destructive light suddenly came. The wave of light instantly enveloped the entire space, and then attacked the male lead. In the midst of Yu's anxious shouts, the male lead's body fell down helplessly from mid-air. Moon painfully looked at the unconscious male lead who fell into her arms. Even if she used divine water to treat his injuries, it wouldn't help. This made her recall the time when she was in Oscar's labyrinth. The male lead was also the figure that defied all odds to stand in front of her and protect her. But now there was no time for them to grieve for the male lead. Taking advantage of Moon's distraction, the attacks came again. It was good that Theo stepped in just in time to buy Moon time to return to defense. It was only then that she barely managed to withstand the onslaught of attacks. After the melee, the scene was filled with smoke and there was a mess everywhere. They didn't have time to catch their breath, but the enemy behind them had already appeared in front of them. This is actually an army of flying dragons in the sky. And standing on top of the flying dragons was none other than the demon race General Freed. What they didn't expect was that Freed had just come to provoke them after sneaking up on the male lead. He condescendingly questioned the male lead about who they really were and what purpose they had come for. But how can the hero fall so easily? With the help of moonlight, he still struggled to stand up. The male lead also didn't want to listen to Freed's nonsense at all. The person who dares to stand in front of him is the person who will die. What else is there to say? Let's go straight to war. But Freed can be said to be the hero after the Blackened Net is the strongest enemy. Not only was he prepared, he brought the magic turtle to easily defend against the hero's fierce counterattacks. He also calmly chanted divine generation magic and instantly moved behind the hero. Only to see his backhanded strike even the powerful male lead could only resist in a sorry state. But he was still sent flying backwards. Luckily, the hero forced himself to stop in mid-air and summoned the Mayfly cross cannon. He used the Mayfly cross cannon to cover his body and approached Fried step by step. Theo also revealed her true form as a black dragon. She knocked over Fried on the dragon's back and performed a black dragon breath. Theo managed to overwhelm her opponent in terms of bloodline and aura. The appearance of the black dragon caused Fried's breath to panic a bit. This allowed the hero to find an opportunity. He went straight for a Barrett's stored power strike, easily shattering his defense. Then the hero took the opportunity to get in close and personal combat, seriously injuring Fried. The hero also directly kicked him out of the room. While Fried was a bit slightly distressed, the male lead's attack wasn't enough to be fatal. On the contrary, the seriously injured male main body has been pulled to the wound because of the violent fighting, has been almost unable to support. Looking at the male lead's haunting eyes, Fried stirred and began to scorn. He felt panicked and subconsciously wanted to run away. This was not only because of the male lead's strong fighting strength and tenacious killing intent that was intense to the extreme. This is not only because of the strong fighting strength of the male lead and the tenacious killing intent that is so strong that it can be extreme. If it wasn't for his sneak attack on the heavily injured male lead at the beginning, he would probably be dead by now. Fried is also considered to have the way of self-knowledge. He knew that if he dragged on, he wouldn't be able to fight. So he just put in a dirty trick to destroy the underground core and make the great volcano of Gurren erupt lava. He wanted to bury them with the great labyrinth. Then he himself left with the flying dragons in style. But in this moment of despair, the hero did not show any sign of discouragement. So he solemnly entrusted Theo to stand out and return to the Principality of Angelica to fulfill the commission. And he asked Theo to greet Kaori and Myuu on his behalf. While he himself stayed behind with Shia and Yu to help her. Then they would find another way out. And Theo didn't disappoint. She endured her injuries, and as fast as she could, she rocked up from the crater in front of Fried. She escaped without incident. Fried was still trying to chase after her, but suddenly saw the hero's weapon, the Mayfly cross, run. The strong power from the weapon's self-explosion was also what slowed down Fried's pursuit. Theo also turned around and flew into the distance with the male lead and their unwavering faith. Theo flew back to the Principality of Angelica to deliver the news and then collapsed to the ground from exhaustion. Under Kaori's meticulous care, Theo, lying in bed, finally slowly got better. She decides to go with Kaori and take Myuu to Erisen to find her mom first. After that, they'll go back to the great volcano of Guluin to look for the hero and his group. And on the other side, on the vast cloudless sea, the male lead was lying peacefully on the deck. He looked up at the sky. What came into his eyes was use, caring, and tenderness. From the looks of their faces, the two were already safe and sound. After all, they could both interact sweetly. Only to see you ambiguously sitting on the male lead's body to the male lead's neck, that is directly a bite down. But the male lead wanted to say to you suck my blood to replenish energy, even if. What's the matter with you undressing yourself? The main character is caught up in the memories. The Guluin volcano was erupting with lava and it looked like everything was going to be drowned. This time the male lead, supported by Yu and Shia, smoothly entered the interior of the great labyrinth of Guluin. They easily obtained the divine generation magic of mastering space and the labyrinth strategy proof. Then they went so crazy that they traveled in the reverse direction along the river with the magic cover on top of them. That's how they finally made it out. Turns out the hero had already prepared in advance can go forward in the water yacht. The crowd managed to get into the cabin of the boat though. But in this extreme heat the rudder of the boat lost control. So they could only surge with the crush of the river along the river. In this way they drifted to an unknown place. But for Yu and Shia, wherever the hero is where their hearts are. And in the end they were actually sprayed out from the bottom of the sea with their boat. At this point the boat is running out of ammunition. But there are ocean demons chasing them at the rear of the yacht. Moon casts a large wind blade magic underwater and takes care of the pursuing demons. But she herself collapsed from the exhaustion of her magic. So the hero rushes to let Moon suck his blood to restore his magic. But Yu held on and refused to take the hero's blood. She didn't want to add to the burden of the severely injured hero. This gave the male lead enough urgency. The good thing is that Shia patted her chest and let Moon suck her blood, which got through it. Shia, who was sucked into a coma by Moon, woke up from the cabin only to see this scene. Moon actually went behind her back with no clothes on and lay on the deck with the male lead as if no one else was there to shush her. Seeing this scene, Shia became jealous on the spot. She was so pissed off that she couldn't even speak coherently. Afterwards the three of them sat calmly on the deck and ate grilled fish. They were trying to figure out what was going on. But the next moment they were surrounded by the sea people who suddenly jumped out of the sea. This scared the hero that was almost choked to death by the 2 pieces of fish. The man was about to open his mouth to explain. But the sea people raised their weapons and attacked Shay. The man has no choice but to perform the first wave of the sea to hit the water first helplessly. Just then She's rabbit ears perked up. She heard a sound coming from the air. only to see the sky appeared a symphonic sound that was familiar to them. It turned out to be Theo returning to the main group with Myuu and Kaori. Seeing that the male lead was also here, Myuu jumped straight down in excitement. Be aware that this is several hundred meters in the air. The hero was shocked, but luckily he caught Myuu in time. After taking care of the naive and honest sea people, Myuu cried and apologized to the male lead. She promised him that she would never do such a dangerous thing again. And after receiving the male lead's forgiveness, Myuu then jumped back into his arms. Kaori also looked at the male lead with tears in her eyes, lamenting how great it was that he was still alive. The hero stood up and doted on Kaori, who was crying tears of joy for him. But it turns out that Kaori is actually playing a little game. She leaned into the hero's arms and begged for comfort. Theo was not to be outdone, and after snatching the male lead up, she buried herself right into her snow-white chest. With a look of excitement on her face, she said that it was her reward for being able to have a touching reunion with her master. Sure enough, that's what a perverted big mother dragon like Theo would say. The reunited group traveled to Myuu's hometown on a yacht. The hero's return to his hometown with the lovely Myuu caused quite a stir among the sea people. After handing over his commission to the president of Erisen, he decided to stay at Erisen for the time being. Myuu anxiously pulls on the hero's hand. She wanted to get home quickly so her father could see her mom. Afterwards, Myuu led the hero faster and faster. They arrived at the cabin on the beach. Myuu's mom, who was in pain, came out of the cabin and went to find Myuu. Myuu also saw her mom. She jumped into her mother's arms. And hugged her tightly. The two of them embraced each other tightly. Myuu also knew how to comfort her mom, telling her not to worry, she was fine. The crowd of onlookers were happy to see the reunion of mother and daughter. Myuu looked at her mom's injured leg, heartbroken, rushed to let the male lead to treat her mom. She called out to her father directly in public. This in turn gave her mom a fright. The crowd around her argued over who was Remia's husband. And at that moment the male lead had walked up to the mother and daughter. He carefully comforted Myuu and quickly cured her mom. Then the male lead came to Myuu's mom. He picked her up in a domineering manner. The surrounding crowd had filled the window with excitement. They were speculating about the relationship between the hero and Remia. And the male lead just sat calmly on the couch. He asked Kaori to check Remia's injuries. After receiving Kaori's affirmative answer, the mother and daughter's hanging hearts were released. Remia also asked the question that had been bothering her for some time. When exactly did she get an extra husband? After hearing the male lead's reply, Remia decided to spend her life repaying the male lead's favor. Before the male lead had a chance to speak, his harem group had already scrambled to speak. They told Remia to go ahead and not to worry about it. As a result, Remia again offered to let the male lead and the others be able to stay here for a while. Because in that case Myuu would be happy too. After all, Remilia knew that Myuu couldn't follow the male lead and the others all the time. That's why she hoped that the male lead could stay with Myuu as a father during the time when they are still apart. Of course, if the hero wants to, it's okay for him to be Myuu's dad all the time. But the male lead was flustered and waved his hand in refusal. After all, the gaze behind him was a bit kind. Remia wasn't in a hurry. She just wants to give Myuu a father who loves her. At night, the hero was sitting quietly on the ground enjoying the moon with his harem. Then he realized something was wrong. Only to see him raise the athletic object in his hand and aim it at the white moonlight in the sky. The charging of the forbidden object suddenly shot out a bright light. This light went straight to the bottom of the sea. That was the only course that guided them forward to explore the great ruins of the labyrinth. So the hero couldn't wait to say goodbye to Remia, who was at home when he returned. He planned to immediately take his harem to explore the so-called Melchiornian Great Labyrinth. With the signposts guiding them, they smoothly opened the labyrinth gate and entered the interior. The standing water from the vault of the sky above their heads poured down, but was easily resisted by Moon casting a barrier. Theo also stepped in to remove any potential risks above the crowd's heads. The result of this was that Shay was in a state of anxiety. She was busy dealing with the falling debris. Only Kaori stood by, lost in thought. She didn't feel like she could fit in with them. They followed the underground river deeper into the labyrinth. The hero looked behind him at the petite and pathetic Yu, who was soaking in the water and enduring it without a word. He thoughtfully came and hugged Yu. He puts Yu on his shoulder so that she can relax a little bit. But Yu is a little shy. After all, there were so many people watching behind her. She couldn't stand Shi's bad jokes, Theo's flirting, and Kaori's nickname of Little Moon. They had easily eliminated the demons that were in their way by randomly striking out along the way. In this way, they couldn't help but feel that the demons in the labyrinth were too weak. Their journey seemed to go smoothly and a bit unusual. Just then behind them there was a sudden convergence of purple slime-like demons. Whether it's Shi's sledgehammer or Theo's flame burns, this time the attack was not able to do anything. This time neither of the attacks were able to do any damage to it. Even Moon's magic barrier is being slowly dissolved by the purple pudding. The countless slime puddings also began to slide down, and gradually they all converged together. What finally appeared in front of them was a giant demonic creature similar to a slug being contaminated. Looking at the huge body in front of the giant slug demonic creature, not good for the mouth. The male lead is a contemptuous smile. This is finally a little bit of the big maze should be like. In the face of the slug's tentacle attack, the male lead and Shirana are both drawing their guns and shooting. Kaori was in charge of mounting a defense, and Yu and Theo followed suit with their attacks. The slug couldn't take it any longer under the onslaught of attacks from everyone. Its body burst into pieces. Before they could be happy, the slug's body was reborn again. I didn't expect the slug to be able to regenerate indefinitely, but it didn't even have a magic core inside its body. No, perhaps it can be said that the slug's entire body is its magic core. The hero was in a bit of a dilemma. But he still wasn't willing to give in. He took Yu and Xia with him, and attacked again. But this time what he got in return was the slug's continuous rebirth, and their stamina being slowly exhausted. It's a good thing that the hero found the vortex flowing into the ground. He immediately summoned a pile driver and powered through the ground. In a flash, the raging water frantically emerged and drowned them all. In the darkness of the ground, Kaori was the first to be rushed by the strong current. The hero decides to save Kaori after asking for Yu's permission, as she is about to lose consciousness. When Kaori is about to lose consciousness, the hero finally swims to her side. They drifted to an unknown island off the shore. Kaori snuggled into the male lead's arms, taking the opportunity to enjoy this rare age. She also wanted to take the opportunity of everyone else's absence to enhance her bond with the male lead. But she obviously underestimated how important he was in the male lead's heart. Looking at the somewhat lost Kaori, the male lead reached out and cupped her small face. He wanted to cheer her up. This is a big labyrinth with crises all over the place, and they no longer have time to talk about love. Then the hero took Kaori and continued on, heading deeper into the labyrinth. He was going to meet up with Yu and the others there. The scene changes and Kaori and the hero, separated from Yu and the others, arrive at the depths of the labyrinth. This is supposed to be a sea cemetery that has been abandoned for years. As they surveyed their surroundings, a fierce fight suddenly broke out in the distance. The sound of fighting caused the space to become distorted and molded. By the time they regained their senses, they were already in the middle of a battle between the two sides. They were already on the deck of a ship in the middle of a firefight between two fleets. Countless cannonballs spewed out from the blackened turrets embedded in the ship. Fierce waves of water rose to the sky. Continuously, ships were being attacked by cannon fire and finally collapsed and sank to the bottom of the sea. Even the hero and the others were not spared. They were covered in fire. But the hero fired a few shots to start a counterattack, but was helplessly passed through. Instead, it was Kaori's magic barrier that played a key role. After realizing this, the hero switched to magic bullets. This time it worked. Just then, an injured person on the deck landed on the ground screaming. The kind-hearted Kaori subconsciously runs to heal him. The result is that the man's body dissipates into nothingness. Kaori is in a state of self-loathing and blames herself for the death of the man. But the hero patiently tells her that it's just a moving illusion. After that, more enemies jump onto the deck and surround them. They claim to be following God's orders. They took the hero and them as so-called infidels and attacked the hero. But none of this was a problem for the male lead as long as they were all taken care of. Kaori, who had just breathed a sigh of relief, looked at the uncountable corpses in the cabin but still committed nausea. Then the male lead could only slow down his advancement so that Kaori could take a short rest. He wanted Kaori to calm down her fear. Kaori was lying helplessly on the board. She couldn't stop apologizing to the hero. She couldn't do anything right. Whether it was staying by the male lead's side or keeping her promise to protect him. She also finally recognizes reality and understands the gap between herself and Yu. The male lead sees through Kaori's pain. She feels inferior because of Yu. If Kaori can't get over it, then he'll have to ask her to leave. But looking at Kaori, who is too depressed to walk, the hero still holds her in his arms. He was going to take a step first. They jumped to the remains of a shipwreck that was slightly larger in scale. That strange feeling of space distortion came back. Here they met the past events that once happened on the cruise ship. It was a banquet organized on behalf of the peaceful coexistence of the entire nation. The kindly old man stood on a high place and gave an inspiring speech. They had thought that this was a rare moment of peace in the past race wars. But what they didn't expect was a sudden change in the old man's style. The hideous, twisted, snarling face was like a different person. The man who couldn't understand and tried to refute it was attacked and stabbed to death. The people were attacked and stabbed to death. It was an incident caused by the gods of the other world who did not want peace for the people. Soldiers took up sharp weapons and surrounded the people who prayed for peace. They destroyed their dreams and killed them in cold blood. It was a time of madness, a time of truth that God tried to drown in time. But even so, they had to go deeper into the labyrinth. Because that was the only way they could use it to get back to the outside world. Suddenly, a mysterious smoke blew up in the distance, enveloping them. Not only does the mist hold unknown dangers, but a fierce hurricane is also coming their way. The weak Kaori can't withstand the force and is blown into the darkness behind her. The hero panics and tries to rescue her but is surrounded by soldiers who suddenly appear. After taking care of the soldiers in front of him, the hero continued to walk forward. But the next moment he sees Kaori, who has disappeared. Kaori was so scared that she tried to throw herself into the hero's arms to seek comfort. But the hero doesn't give a damn and puts a gun to her chin. Without hesitation he shoots and tries to kill the man in front of him. He looked down at Kaori, who was being controlled by someone. The hero fired shot after shot trying to force out the being that had taken over his body. Kaori is not going to keep up the pretense, seeing that her face has already been torn apart. She's ready to show her cards. She actually threatens the hero with Kaori's body, making him drop his weapon. Thinking that she had gotten her way, Kaori had just revealed a sinister smile. The result was that in the next second Kaori's face was written with a question mark. She didn't understand why the man in front of her didn't care about the death of the woman she loved. However, it was precisely because the man cared about Kaori. That's why he would never just let go so easily of an existence that dared to take a shot at someone important to him. A raging purple murderous aura surrounded the hero's body. This constantly stimulated every nerve of the imposter Kaori. In the end, the male lead pulled the trigger, directly scaring off the mysterious existence possessing Kaori. The male lead lay on top of Kaori, feeling her scent. Then Kaori actually woke up. Kaori looked at the man in front of her, who made her heart flutter. The next second she kissed her directly. This is the answer that Kaori gave. Only staying by the hero's side is the best choice for Kaori. At this moment she finally got over it. After that they find the spell hidden in the depths. They were teleported to the palace outside. Moon and Shay and the girls also arrived without incident to meet them. They ended up seeing Kaori, who was lying on the male lead's back and taking the opportunity to pamper herself. This made Theo very excited. She was curious about what happened between the hero and Kaori. So the male lead had to let her feel the shock that pleasured her after a long time. Kaori blurted out with a calm face about her kissing the male lead's classmate. This makes Sakia look at him in a different light. Kaori had recognized the gap between her and Myuu. But as long as she was also one of the male lead's important people, that was enough. This moment she also reached a reconciliation with Myuu. The atmosphere between the women inexplicably became cordial. The male lead was the only one with a headache about getting along in the future. After that the crowd stood in the center of the spell. They found the divine generation of magic Mel that represented the power of regeneration. The stunning goddess just appeared in front of them. She told them to follow their free will and keep moving forward. After saying this she dissipated. And at that moment they got the fourth raider proof. The only thing left to do was to challenge the great maze of the Sea of Trees where she's group was located. But when they got the raider proof in their hands, they were flooded by the water again. Under the water the slug demon, which they couldn't do anything about, reappeared. When it appeared it didn't give them time to think of countermeasures and launched a fierce attack on them. However, the hero has already thought of a way to solve it. The hero says that he only needs you and the girls to buy him 3 minutes of time. Realizing the crisis, the slug roared and opened its huge mouth, trying to devour them. But the time needed is not enough. Just then a reassuring voice suddenly rang out. Only to see the slug's body, it was knocked down by the multitude of fish that had gathered together. After that a familiar handsome figure swam over. The time was exactly 3 minutes. And the one who appeared in front of them was Riemann, the small fish that the hero once befriended on his journey. As it turns out, Riemann was swimming in the sea when he sensed the familiar fluctuation of the hero's magic power. So he unleashed his power. He manipulates the fishes and helps the hero to defeat the monster fish named Eclipse, which has existed since ancient times. It can be said that Riemann's arrival really helped the hero a lot. At this point the hero's big kill is also finally completed. The body of the monster fish was filled with magic power by the hero's special concentrated missile. After that there was suddenly an incredibly strong explosion. After 6 days of raiding the great labyrinth of Melchizedek, it was finally time to part ways. They were about to embark on a new journey. Even though Myuu was very sad, she didn't say anything to them to stay. Myuu gave each of them a shell as an amulet to protect them. She will stay with her mom in Erisen and wait for the hero to come back to take them to Earth. The hero drove on the road, taking Moon and the girls to the great labyrinth of the Sea of Trees where the Sheer tribe was located. On the way they meet a pair of traveling merchants. They are being surrounded and attacked by bandits. The big disadvantage of the number of people on both sides makes the merchants can only hold up the boundary and struggle to resist. Some people in the boundary have already been injured and collapsed. It was only a matter of time before the boundary was breached. Finally the boundary could not withstand the attack and began to break. When she thought about how many people would die because of this, the kind-hearted Kaori couldn't sit still. But before she could ask for help, the hero had already stepped on the gas. The male lead showed a bad smile. Treating the enemy is what he does best. Only to see the hood of the car there as magic convergence, a human killing machine was summoned into shape. The gunshots boomed and the thieves fell. That's sort of the hero's salvation for them. Under the cover of the male lead, Kaori smoothly made her way through the crowd to the injured. She started healing with all her might. But Kaori was suddenly approached by Little Red Riding Hood. Who turned out to be the princess of the kingdom, Lily. Kaori and Lily were really meeting each other, and they greeted each other. At that moment, someone suddenly appeared next to her asking about Kaori's treatment. Lily was shocked. I didn't expect Lily to recognize the hero who has changed so much after a few moments of scrutiny. She even shushed the male lead up. Lily said that it was great that the male lead had returned safe and sound. Turns out that after Lily's melodramatic speech, the male lead replied back with this sentence. This is the first time I've seen this. The hero doesn't care about Lily's drama and asks her what she's here for. Lily is in the car telling the hero what happened to them. It turns out that the atmosphere in the kingdom is getting a little weird and unusual. The king is fiendishly obsessed with and worships the so-called gods. The soldiers and knights became dull and lifeless, as if they were being manipulated. They balked at the idea that they were heretics, and needed to be stamped out in a hurry. Even Ms. AI, who protested, was knocked out by them and put under house arrest. Lily fled from the palace in fear. She wants to seek help from the outside world. When he learns of all this, the hero prepares to go to the great labyrinth of Kamiyama to rescue AI-sensei. Not only does he want to kill all the enemies in his way, but he also wants to get the new Kamiyo magic. The male lead's fierce side is showing again. This scene is very exciting for you and Shia. In the dimly lit prison, AI-sensei was mindfully reminiscing about her experience with the male lead. She subconsciously called out the male lead's name. What she didn't expect was that she actually got a response. Just as panic set in, she saw the male lead use levitation magic to get to the top of Kamiyama. He stood in front of Aiko-sensei's window and overbearingly activated the cell mechanism that he had practiced to break. Then he came to the teacher's face. The sudden arrival of the male lead caused Aiko-sensei's heart to become somewhat flustered beyond belief. AI was incoherent and didn't know what she was saying. She couldn't even speak clearly. To help AI calm down, the male lead grabs her wrist, but she objects. But the male lead is just trying to uncuff AI. The only person who thinks too much is Ms. AI, just like you in front of the screen. The hero's magic eye has sensed that a large number of demons have launched an attack towards the kingdom. It seems that the task of transferring with AI-sensei is urgent. But at that moment, a blinding eye-catching light enveloped them. With the light dissipating, there was also the entire floor they were on. Fortunately, the male lead took Mr. AI to the air and advanced to avoid, so that they were spared. Under the white moonlight, there was a Valkyrie figure holding two swords. The next second, the sacred white feather suddenly transformed into sharp feather spikes shooting towards them. The hero and Noin fought hard. The two broke out into a fierce and incomparable battle. No matter how hard it is to fight with two fists, not to mention that he is still holding AI, he can't fight with all his strength. So the hero can only call for support with the voice of 1,000 miles. He took AI out of the center of the battle first. Moon and Shia stood still and watched as Theo transformed into a black dragon and flew off into the distance. But they didn't expect the enemy's destructive attack to pounce on them just as Theo left. But it's a good thing that Shay has the ability to see the future, allowing them to safely avoid the sneak attack. It turns out that the kingdom's protective boundary has already been destroyed. The demon race's army has also been attacking the city. The red-haired Freed who attacked the hero in the volcano labyrinth is the protagonist of this war. It seems that a fierce battle is about to start. Will the hero be able to kill all the enemies in front of him? Like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next installment.